Hello and welcome to today's webinar on Trails and Economic Development, Showcasing Impact, hosted by Rails to Trails Conservancy. My name is Scott Goldstein, Senior Director of Government Relations here at Rails to Trails, and I will be your moderator today. During today's session, you will learn more about the economic impact of trails and their important role in tourism, outdoor recreation, livability, and more. Today, we're honored to have a panel of experts from across the country to share their firsthand experience demonstrating the role of trails in economic development. We're joined by Emily Meadows, the statewide recreation planning coordinator for the Utah Department of Natural Resources, Kennedy Domershey, the outdoors development manager for Visit Eau Claire in Wisconsin, and Stephanie Reynolds, the tourism specialist for Athens Limestone County in Georgia.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Scott. I'm really excited to be here today and share just some high-level information about Utah's outdoor recreation economy and how the Division of Outdoor Recreation really supports our local communities to enhance recreation opportunities throughout the state. Next slide. I just wanted to give a brief history and overview. There's so much we could talk about when it comes to Utah, but Utah was the first state to create an Office of Outdoor Recreation in 2013. You can see over here on the graphic on the right that over 71% of our state is publicly accessible land, whether that be federal, state, or locally owned. But Utah really does have an abundance of outdoor recreation opportunities, from winter sports to both motorized and non-motorized trails. We have the desert in the southern half of our state and the mountains in the north. So it does provide a lot of diverse landscapes for Utahns and visitors to explore. Our mission here at the division, in 2022, the Utah State Legislature really recognized the growing importance of outdoor recreation and created the Utah Division of Outdoor Recreation. So we are housed under the Department of Natural Resources, and our mission is really to promote, enhance, and ensure safe and sustainable access to Utah's outdoor resources. We do that in a variety of ways that I'll kind of cover, but as we continue to grow, now we've been around for 3 years as a division and have a staff of over 85 people, and not including our law enforcement folks that keep people safe. But we also have programs such as education programs for boating and OHV safety. We have an Every Kid Outdoor Adventure Challenge that has been launched this year, and other programs such as planning and Adopt the Outdoors. So we continue to grow and expand as outdoor recreation continues to be so popular. Next slide. I just wanted to give some key highlights. There was a report in 2023 from the Bureau of Economic Analysis that reported about $9.5 billion, which contribute to 3.4% of Utah's GDP and support over 70,000 jobs. So it's very clear that outdoor recreation is a huge part of our economy here in Utah. The graph on the right is just showing the numbers that are from our top industries. You can see obviously almost $6.5 million from the snow industry, snow activities. But we also have, so much else to explore and enjoy: boating and fishing, RV. There's hunting, shooting, a lot of motorized activities as well as non-motorized, including camping, climbing, and bicycling, among others. But in 2022, bicycling actually saw a 43% of increase, reflecting a really growing trend of cycling participation across Utah that I'll be touching on in a couple of our case studies. Next slide. So how do we do all this? It's a big mission. We have a lot to try and accomplish. We really try to ensure the health, safety, and enjoyment and that economic benefit through life-enriching and high-quality outdoor recreation for all Utah residents and visitors. So one of the ways that we were able to support so many of these programs and projects and communities is through as well as our federal land managers, is through our grant programs. Some of our grants, the majority of them have been passed through legislation. And so we have allocated funds that come from different sources. Some come from our transient room tax, some come from OHV and boating registration fees. Depending on the grant, it's passed in code. And so we get funds allocated every fiscal year. Which makes it a very sustainable source of funding for outdoor recreation support. In this last just 2025's grant cycle for our largest grant that's been around for over 10 years, we were able to award over $23 million of funding to all 29 counties throughout our state to support 142 outdoor recreation infrastructure projects, which was really exciting. We had a huge application or response to our application. A lot of applications came in this year, and we were really excited to support all 29 counties for the first time. Like I mentioned, these grants typically help with the construction of trails and outdoor amenities such as boating access, climbing infrastructure, signage, safety improvements, as well as recreation planning. We also recognize the importance of planning, and so this was the first year that we were able to support planning efforts in local communities as well. The majority of those projects that we funded with $1.5 million were to pay for recreation or trail master plans throughout the state. So we recognize that not only are we trying to build, but we're also trying to help provide planning assistance to help communities that don't have the budgets or the funds to invest in that. Next slide. This is just a quick little snapshot or flow chart showing those different grant opportunities that we offer. The orange kind of show the state funding opportunities. So there's over, I think, 8 different state funded programs, and then the 2 green are our federally funded grants that we administer through our office. Next slide. Another way that we have been able to really support trails specifically is through our statewide trail crew program. This was established 2 years ago, and it initially just was one trail crew for the entire state of Utah. And within just 2 years, we've expanded from the one into 4 regional trail crews. You can see in the map on the right. These are fully funded and paid through our transient occupancy tax as well as OHV registration funds. And so their services are completely free for partners to utilize. They work on maintaining trails and support nonprofit organizations, federal land managers, local conservation corps, as well as anyone who is interested and expresses interest. They fill out a form, and then the trail crew leads. They plan out their schedule for the season. So this last 2024 season, they worked over 500 miles of trails. 400 of those were motorized, while 115 were non-motorized trails. A lot of volunteer hours were contributed as well, which is awesome to get other people involved in supporting them. Another way that we were able to support trails and build others' capacity is through our conferences and technical trail trainings. So we typically host 2 conferences a year, the Utah Trail Conference, or every other year we now have our Mountain West Trails Conference, as well as our Utah Outdoor Recreation Summit. This really is our way to work with federal and state, as well as local and nonprofits, to give them opportunities to network and trail and give them hands-on training. Some of these trainings help build their capacity and their skills through having experts teach them how to do rock work or how to trail design in arid terrains, how to work and optimize for mountain biking trails or drainage, all these different components of building a trail. We offer these trainings for free. Next slide. So, like I said, I just wanted to give a couple case studies on how trails have been a really great economic opportunity for communities across Utah. This first example is a OHV or off-highway vehicle trail system located in central Utah. It's called the Paiute ATV Trail, and it covers 4 different counties connecting 16 different communities. This trail's been around for a long time, and locals have been collecting data since 1995 through trail counters and game cameras, as well as sign-in sheets. But just over the last 2 decades, um, it's seen a huge increase in ridership from 23,000 to over 160,000. Of course, that's also considering the advancement of ATVs that back in the day they were only single occupancy machines, and now UTVs can hold up to 6 riders. But something to note that in 2020, um, the majority of these riders were coming from outside of the state, or they lived within the state but outside of this region. And you can see those numbers from how many dollars were spent a day while people were riding these trails. So those who were coming from outside of the state spent almost $400 a day. Um, on average, those riding the ATV riders spend about $33 million a year while riding the Paiute Trail system. So it's a huge opportunity for these more rural and smaller, you know, communities in the central area of Utah to benefit from recreation. One interesting thing that we saw in 2024 was there was a wildfire and that unfortunately shut down 3 of the main access points to the trail system. And businesses experienced a 50% decrease in sales due to the wildfire. So it was really clear that, the direct connection of economic opportunity and benefit to this awesome recreation amenity. Next slide. The other case study that I wanted to highlight is also located in central Utah. This is in Richfield, Sevier County, Utah. Richfield is a community of about 8,000 people, but they historically were really known as an OHV recreation, again, kind of tying back to that Paiute Trail system as well as others. But they had some trail champions that really wanted to diversify the recreation opportunities, not only for the locals, but for visitors. And so you can see in 2019, this was before the division was created, but through the Office of Outdoor Recreation, they applied for funding and were able to start building mountain bike trails. Through, over the few years, the next year they were able to expand that trail system and build a NICA course, which is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So it's the high schooler teams that all come together and race mountain bikes. And just through the NICA course, that brings a huge group of people 1 or 2 times a year for racing. If the in During those races, about $1 million of spending is capitalized from all the hotels being booked out, the restaurants, the grocery stores, from all the visitors coming for those races. Um, Again, as time goes on, they funded another phase, and eventually in 2023, there was such a huge um, just expansion that we helped support fund a trailhead and restroom facility. And so over the last 5 years, they've been able to develop 38 miles of single track with that trailhead and restroom. And really, they've been able to leverage the funds from our office to cover a little over half of the total project cost, which is $1.2 million. The community has really made a name for themselves, and they continue to diversify recreation opportunities through camping, fishing, paragliding, so many more things. But mountain biking has been a huge draw for a lot of folks. And this last year, so much so that they, using Strava data, were able to see a 75% of increase of trail usage, and now are in the works of doing a trail expansion feasibility study to see how are they going to manage all these new visitors, as well as making sure that the opportunities and the recreation experience is still a high quality one for everyone in the area. And next slide. That's all I have. Again, happy to answer any questions at the end, but thanks for listening, and I'll pass it over to our next panelist.
Emily, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I learned a lot personally, and I saw some questions come in the chat, so it's clear the audience was engaged. Thank you so much. Now we will hear from Kennedy, the Outdoors Development Manager for Visit Eau Claire in Wisconsin. Take it away, Kennedy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know the slides need to get switched over. Alrighty. Yeah, thanks for having me again. My name is Kennedy Domershi. I'm the Outdoors Development Manager for the tourism agency Visit Eau Claire in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It's definitely a unique position to have in a tourism agency to focus on outdoor recreation, because it's my job really just to make playing outside even more fun in the area. Kind of a dream. I also try to help develop more outdoor recreation, more trails, more boat landings, all the ways we can be playing outside. I want to point out here before we move on from this slide, we have the bridges the pictures that kind of go like this of all the bridges. Those are all Rails to Trails projects. We have trails that come through our downtown and connect our trails to other different cities. So we are a big, big trail town, definitely. Next slide, please. So before I get into really kind of the Eau Claire outdoor recreation and our trails, I just want to touch on outdoor rec in Wisconsin. I know Utah was awesome as the first state to have an Office of Outdoor Recreation. Wisconsin, I believe, was the 14th. We created our office in 2019. Right now, there's 2 people, and it was just created, or it was just made permanent. It was not a permanent office up until this year that our governor just signed it in. So that's a huge, huge win. We also have major manufacturers, outdoor industry manufacturers within the state that you've probably heard of, including Trek Bicycles, St. Croix Rods, which has, they're the creator of one of my favorite fly rods I use, and then Bending Branches paddles, kayak and canoe paddles might ring a bell. Those are all Wisconsin companies. Also, this infographic is really fun. It's outdoor recreation is an $11.2 billion industry in Wisconsin in 2023. And that's really significant. It was even up 9.4% from the previous year. And I definitely attribute that to our office's amazing work that they've been doing and really spreading the word about how outdoor recreation is a necessity, right? It's not just a nice to have. We can move on to the next slide, please. Just to give you guys kind of an idea of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I always include the city of Altoona as part of it because we are right next to each other. So it's a city that feels like we have a population of 80,000, even though Eau Claire is just 70,000. We're situated just an hour and a half east of the Twin Cities, so Minneapolis, St. Paul. We share a lot of people in between, and then just a 5-hour drive from Chicago. So we're a good little in the middle type of city. We're also the biggest city on the whole western side of the state. We have a University of Wisconsin here. And we're also really well known, at least the primary pillars, I'd say, of our community is really around music festivals, our free public art, and our outdoor rec for sure. Next slide. So really what I wanted to talk to you guys about the economic impact of Eau Claire's paved trails. I did a study a couple years ago as part of a pilot program put on by the Wisconsin Office of Outdoor Recreation to do my own DIY economic impact study. So I do have that resource I'll share with you guys here in a little bit, but we got some really, really fun statistics out of this. And really the biggest answer I wanted to have with this study I did is how do the Eau Claire's paved trail system and our free public art contribute to people spending money when they are using our trails? So when people are on a trail for the day, they're just taking a walk, walking their dog, going on a bike ride. On average, how much is that person spending every single day? And then that public art piece too, how that contributes. So this was a really fun study to try to piece together, but it was really necessary, I think, with the public art piece especially, because Eau Claire is home to the largest or nation's largest rotating sculpture tour. So we have over 120 sculptures situated throughout the city. And every year, a lot of those get switched out. So every single year we have a lot of fresh sculptures that are, keeps it really exciting. And it's a totally self-guided tour and it's walkable, it's bikeable, all that good stuff. And then we also have an abundance of murals. Visit Eau Claire runs the sculpture tour, and then we also have a mural program called the Color Block Mural Program. And that is just like Visit Eau Claire's work. We have a community that's really, really strong with our art scene, and we have so many murals up just from public projects. And so that's really why I wanted to integrate the art. So we've got some highlights from this study that we can look at on the next slide. Just to give you guys kind of a background on how many trails there are within the city of Eau Claire and just paved trails, that was my particular focus for this study. There's 57 miles. That's pretty amazing. And that's just a small portion really of the state trail system that we're also situated on, which is over 80 miles. And then we've branched out on top of that to have trails run throughout the city. It's very bikeable, very walkable, all that fun stuff. And that doesn't include our unpaved trails, right? So the 57 miles is what was included in the study. We found that they help generate over $4.12 million to our area's economy every single year. And this is one of my favorite statistics I got to pull out of this, because this was really like, how does public art and outdoor rec work together? Over 37% of people who responded to my surveys said that they use our trails intentionally to go view our sculpture tour and the murals throughout the city. So that's a really great tie-in for the draw to get people outside. Next slide, please. We also found some really interesting patterns too, in that 84% of my survey respondents who are using trails don't just go out to use the trails for a day. A lot of them are doing other things. So 84% of those respondents are using our trails to go visit our parks, for example, and we have an abundance of parks. And then over half of respondents also like to enjoy wineries, go visit our festivals, go kayaking and wildlife viewing. Those were all the top activities from that study that people just like to do for outdoor recreation. The trails themselves have around 233,000 annual visitors, supporting 56 jobs within the community and over $1.9 million in labor income. And this last statistic I'm definitely part of because I'm from Illinois originally. 29% of respondents who moved to Eau Claire from outside of a 40-mile radius cited Eau Claire or outdoor recreation. Eau Claire recreation. Maybe I need to do something with that. Outdoor recreation as being a moderate to significant factor in their decision to relocate. Our trails run right through our downtown. They do the connecting to all those other cities, like I said. They're along our river systems. Like, I've got a B-roll footage that's going to come up in the next slide that you guys can see a lot of what's going on within the city. but they all contribute really to people wanting to come to Eau Claire and the attractiveness of it. And then there's the whole cycle, right? You visit a place, you fall in love with it, you consider moving there. Sometimes you do, and then you invest in your community, and it's a really beautiful cycle. So yeah, I love seeing that 29% is a really good statistic. So let's move on to that next slide. The final points, I suppose, that I'd like to make while we look at this kind of jumpy video, sorry about that, is that really outdoor recreation and public art to contribute really to a sense of place. And that's a huge element in tourism, I suppose, you know what I mean? And just trying to make a community better, because that's really going to take a place from like surviving to thriving. And it obviously shows that outdoor recreation and investing in it really has good ROI. Like we see a lot of the impacts of having trails like that within our communities really quickly. And so, yeah, I'm going to be an advocate for outdoor recreation and trails for the rest of my life. And I'm so excited. Yeah, I can be a resource to you guys if you need. I think, yeah, that DIY economic impact report was just linked into the chat, but also there's a whole guide available for how you could also do your own DIY impact report. So that'll be shared as well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the chance to share.
Thank you very much, Kennedy. And as someone who does a lot of advocacy for my job, I love the idea of a lifelong advocate. So hopefully you're not the only one on this call in that position. But that was wonderful. Thank you. Last but certainly not least is Stephanie Reynolds, the tourism specialist for Athens, Limestone County, Georgia. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Looking forward to your presentation.
Why, thank you very much. Actually, it's Alabama, Athens, Limestone County, Alabama. So we're very close to Huntsville. If people know where Huntsville is. This time we started with Utah, then we went to Eau Claire. And now we're going to go really, really tiny, and we're going to talk about Elkmont, Alabama. And we're going to talk about the economic impact that the Richard Martin Trail, which is a rail trails endeavor, had on that little town. The very first slide I want to show you, though, is a frost flower. I don't know if y'all have seen that. If you haven't seen a frost flower, Google it after the webinar. Listen to this part of the webinar and then go Google it. But they're beautiful, and they only happen for a few hours one day a year, if that. And the trail this year was covered with them, so it was really fabulous. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about the Richard Martin Trail is a Rails to Trails Conservancy project in North Alabama. It's 11 miles long. It is very popular. It's used by bikers, walkers, runners, wreckers, horses, and mule carts. Motorized vehicles are not allowed. It is 11 miles long, and it has several ingress points, including 1 mile from my house. So this is really personal to me. I do a lot of professional and personal events on the trail. And it has a whole bunch of features for people to look at, including the Sulphur Creek Trestle battle site from the Civil War, covered bridges, one of which was built on an abutment that was built in 1901, and Leatherneck Swamp for bird viewing. Next slide. All right, this is Richard Martin of the Richard Martin Trail. He is the fellow, he is the driver of a lot of things in our area. He is, I believe he's 89 years old, and you can't hardly keep him down. He just blows into my office and blows out of my office. He's absolutely fabulous. His house is right on the trail. This project was begun in 1989 because he and his running buddies did a smaller trail within town, and it got so popular and overcrowded, they decided to think much bigger. So in 1989, they started this, the Rails to Trails project. And of course, that required fundraising. One of the people that they hired to bring on the trail was a promoter, and she did the blazing the trail with pennies for school children to earn a pizza day if they brought in the most pennies. They brought in 1.6 million pennies, which then had to be counted by, I think, her, or maybe it was the city clerk. So one poor person had to count all those pennies. We were able to partner, of course, with Rails Trails Conservancy, but also with the TVA and the Athens city clerk, which made the job a lot easier. The project was finished in 2009 and was ranked 11th in the nation by the Rails to Trails in 2015. Next slide. Why would I focus on Elkmont, not Athens? So Athens, where I live and where my office is, actually I live between Athens and Elkmont, but Athens has a population of 30,000 and Elkmont has a population of 450. So it's a lot easier to see the direct impact that the trail has on Elkmont, because that's very much what they have. They have the trail. They don't have a lot of the amenities that Athens has. So it's a lot easier to get a feel of why people are in that town. The trail goes directly through the center of Elkmont. While we have a trailhead in Athens, it's slightly north of the city center, so you don't have people actually walking through your town. And again, it's a lot easier to get an understanding of the impact. Also, if you're in a DMO or small town that's less likely to be frequented, like on the highway, I wanted to focus on getting the concept of getting rails to trails or another type of trail in your town. You might not be able to have a convention center. Your area might not support that. But putting in a trail would possibly be a better return on your investment, because you're more likely to bring in tourists. And if you had a convention center or some other big attraction, you're also going to need hotels and a whole bunch of other things that you may not have. But a trail is something that people look up and they will travel across country, across nations to go to if it's fabulous. Slide 5, please. Okay, thank you. So how I did this is I interviewed different people within Elkmont. Regrettably, I didn't have access to Placer data or Zydeco data to be able to give you all hard numbers. That wasn't in our budget. We're small. But I was able to interview the people who are in Elkmont who would feel the effects directly. And the first one I talked to was Elkmont Mayor Tracy Compton. He was mayor before the trail was ever put in, so he got to see the growth from before the trail till now. He said that people come to Elkmont when they normally wouldn't, and then they come back. He also said nobody comes from 40 miles away to see your new sidewalk, but they will come for the trail, and that's absolutely the truth. Because Elkmont is overshadowed by its much bigger neighbor to the south, which is Athens, the town risks being completely overlooked and stagnant, ignored by both tourism and locals. That means businesses there would only be able to sell to their own small community. But the trail provides 24/7, 365 national and international advertising by anybody who's looking for a new trail to go on. He said that the trail is the centerpiece of Elkmont. And I asked him about any economic downsides. He says there wasn't any economic downside. The only downside is occasionally there's horse droppings in front of the stores, which he didn't seem to consider that big of a problem. His town request, though, or his request is dedicated restrooms. They do have a lovely little restroom, but he would like something better for the trail participants, and the town is willing to pay for the electricity and upkeep. Next slide, please. The next person I talked to was Donna at the Wabajo gas station, which this picture that you see is me standing on the trail. So that's how close the gas station is. The gas station is a main draw for trail guests because it's easy to pick up water and snacks. Her biggest concerns flag important business opportunities for those on or about the trail. She sees bike repair and air as a need that she sees fairly often. Some places have installed bike repair stations on their trails, which are very helpful. And I think we probably need to get those on ours. If you have a trail, consider putting DIY bike repair stations on there. I've seen them. They're pretty cool. She was also very concerned about the health and safety of people on the trail. Now, the safety not from predators, but water. We're deep south today. The heat index is going to be well in the hundreds with the heat and humidity. And she's very concerned about their water and hydration needs. And so she's very glad to be able to provide that for them. But that's one of the pervasive concerns that she has. She says that their business really took a hit when they were not accepting credit cards. And once they started accepting credit cards, because people don't travel with cash on the trail very often, they saw their business go up significantly. Their business on the weekends is about 80-20 for locals versus guests. And while I was talking to her, one of the customers mentioned historic markers. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the gas station started talking about, oh, historical markers, these trail markers, those are a must. And to be honest with you, as more of a nature person than a history person, I didn't realize how significant having those markers are. But people will wander 2 miles down a trail to go see a historic marker, which I actually wouldn't have considered. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is, I talked to Jada from Bliss and Birch Boutique. Now, again, I'm standing, you can see how I'm pretty much on the trail, and the picture is pointing to her boutique. Some businesses find direct benefit from the trail a little bit more difficult, even if they're on the trail, because they don't cater to trail guests directly, but that can be adjusted. I also didn't see, so she has some dog items that people who are on the trail with their dogs might be interested in, but I didn't see any signs advertising, we have items for your pup, which I think might be a missed opportunity. Also, she did recommend having trailhead market days, which she has seen in other places that were incredibly successful. She did praise the trail, and she's had some minor success when our office actually brought people to the trail. We did a 2 miles down to the start marker and 2 miles back. And then she had people shopping at her store after that. So there is a lot of potential, even for businesses that don't seem like they would go well or seem to be directly related to a trail, to get business from a trail if it's closer. She does think that Elkmont needs more places for hikers to eat. I think that a boutique might consider stocking inexpensive things like backpacks, waist packs, dog-friendly items, cooling cloths, bug spray, parasols, umbrellas. I think that almost any business can tap into the trail if they expand their ideas just a little bit. Next slide, please. Okay, this is my favorite, warehouse pizza. Okay, so this is right on the trail. If you look at the photos, the top photo is looking at the front door, but the front door is not facing the trail. It's to the side of the trail. So you can see how it looks like a giant warehouse alongside the trail. But they have stairs that go up to the side of the building, but they don't have signage that says ice cream here, or get your cold drinks here, or take a break, eat a pizza, or anything. I think that they're missing out on a significant draw. When we do trail walks, I base it around warehouse pizza. So we walked the full trail one time. I took a group and we stopped. That was our halfway point. So people who couldn't normally walk the full 11 miles straight, we walked the first half. We stopped in Elkmont, which is the halfway point. And then we cooled down, we ate, we refueled, we rested, and then people could go on to the end of the trail. I think it was significant in the success rate of the people hiking the trails. And they have so many fabulous things if they lean into it a little bit more. If they had banners advertising their healthy and less healthy options, especially their ice creams and their salads and their cauliflower crust pizza, I think that they would do significantly better than they are now. Next slide, please. Okay, the big thing about the trail that I wanted to discuss slightly was horses. Horses are very important to the trail. One of the biggest comments that I got, honestly, is we need more hitching posts. Everybody that I was talking to at some point pretty much mentioned that they needed more hitching posts, which I wouldn't have thought of as a concern. But again, I'm not a horse person. And so that is something that I think that any small town that has a trail needs to put hitching posts. And they also need to encourage their businesses to be horse friendly, such as providing carrots or treats, shade, water, and other things that horse people might need. And we really want to draw the horse people because they tend to travel in groups, drive much longer distances, and generally have disposable income. The other thing one thing that I would like to caution, though, is we have very enthusiastic, I love the people who are invested in the trail, but there are some factions of the trail stakeholders that jumped in without consulting the other ones. So we had 2 separate instances where horse riders were not considered when something was done to the trail, and that caused a bit of a problem. So I would recommend, if you have a trail in your town and you don't have somebody who is managing all the stakeholders, that you consider stepping up to that role, so that you can ensure that there aren't any problems. The bikers, oh, what if we did this? And then they go to the legislator or the county or whoever, and the county's like, oh yeah, that sounds great, not realizing how terribly that might impact the walkers or the horseback riders or vice versa. So that's something to consider. Next slide. Okay, so placing the trail directly through town can be a boon, especially for smaller towns that would be overshadowed or missed entirely. However, in order to capitalize on that, store owners and town management need to be active in capitalizing. You can't just let the trail be there and then just wait for the people to come in. You have to market to the people. Funding can be requested through many avenues, and especially avenues that you may not consider. For example, emergency management, federal funding. If your trail can be an evac route or is high ground, that might be something to consider, getting some finances for your trail building, because it can be quite expensive. You can look into the ecologic preservation, which is pretty low hanging fruit, historic importance, and also perhaps partnering with local health systems with the idea of mental health and mental health clinics. Mental health, the nature and outdoors is significant for helping mental health, and so if you can get different clinics to kind of come in with you and help support you in building your trail or maintaining your trail, as well as physical health, such as cardiovascular clinics, you might be able to find some funding that you may not have thought that you could acquire. Also, if you are not part of tourism and you're listening to this, please consider reaching out to your tourism office or your local economic development office to see how I'm in tourism, to see how we can help you. We have a lot of ideas. And if you have something that you want to be done, it's possible that we could partner to make those dreams come true. Next slide. I want to thank you very much for listening to this, to me speak about Elkmont. If you have any questions or if you have any ideas, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk to you about these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie, from the great state of Alabama. Yeah, it was great to hear from you all. All the presentations were fantastic and informative. And one of the ways you know that is because all of the wonderful questions that we've received. So we're going to transition to the Q&A portion. And I'm going to pose some of them to the speakers and let them answer. But please feel free, folks, to keep submitting questions. I know some of them are getting responded to directly in the chat. For others, we'll have a chance to address them live. So first question, I think this goes out to everyone. How do you navigate unauthorized vehicles accessing the trails? Anybody want to take that one?
I can start, I suppose. That is always an issue that I think is going to exist forever. But as far as trying to keep people off of trails who really shouldn't be, or maybe they're on an e-bike that goes too fast or something like that, I think policing, like having your people who are already using trails sort of police those people. And I think mostly signage might help, like at trailheads, and have your trail user groups and other entities within your community that kind of have influence put signs out there that explicitly say, like, this is how you respectfully use a trail and share the trail with others. And then maybe I'm a little too comfortable, but if I definitely see somebody on a trail who's not supposed to be there, I will say something. I think that people are really uncomfortable with confrontation and will probably, next time they consider taking their whatever out that shouldn't be on the trail, they'd probably question it. But I'd love to hear from the other panelists what they think too, because it's definitely a problem, I think, that exists on all trails.
So for our trail, we actually have posts that go in the ground. Now the problem is the post can be removed for emergency vehicles and for maintenance. I think that helps. That slightly helps the just like driving your four-wheeler down the street. Oh, here's a trail. I think that helps remind people not to do that. I have experienced very little of that during the day. That mostly happens at night when they know nobody's watching. So establishing, every so often, seeing if you can get the sheriff or police or this area is monitored for unauthorized motorized activity. Smile, you're on camera. I think those could be deterrents.
Yeah, such a tough question, and I agree. It's we do try to do a lot of education, and especially with the surge of e-bikes and the not just at a class one, but over in a class three, it's definitely communities struggle with, and we at the state are trying to come up with that signage and try and figure out ways that will communicate that the best. Because even with signage, like I was camping and there was a clear sign that said no OHVs, and this ATV just drove right past me, and I was just like, come on, people, like respect the trail, respect the resource. So we're trying to come up with different creative ways to educate as well as really push like being stewards. I agree that if there's someone out there that sometimes they just don't know, and it's, maybe they missed the sign or maybe they just, saw someone else doing it. Um, Similarly, like, but one person sees someone with a dog in a place that a dog shouldn't be, and then they think all dogs are, it's like it's a problem that I don't we need a grassroots, but also try and educate and inform people as best as we can where they're allowed and where they're not.
Thank you all. That was great. And we certainly invite every panelist to speak on all the questions if you have something you want to offer. So that was a great response to the first question. The next one is our area has wineries and breweries. Sounds like a lovely area. And any suggestions for getting participation from local businesses?
Do you mean participation to contribute to a trail? I could think of a lovely, if you're wanting to build a trail, being able to, the wine trail into to segue a wine trail into a nature trail, or to have a lovely supper on the trail. If you already have a trail, have a wine tasting on the trail, might be ways to get some exposure, if that's what the question is referring to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I have any further context on what the question may be referring to, but thank you for offering that answer. Anyone else want to speak to it? And if you don't, we can move on. But Kennedy, go ahead.
Sure. From a tourism standpoint, and this is, of course, my understanding of the question, but getting people to know what like wineries and what businesses exist is a whole issue in itself, right? Or a whole challenge. So creating passes like winery passes or brewery passes, something thematic. And we use Bandwango. And so we create kind of these passes or passports. So people have to download the Bandwango app, sign up for whatever, like we have a Wisconsin cheese curd crawl, right? So like people have to go to all these different restaurants, try out the cheese curds, check in when they're physically at the location to prove that they did it. Once they visit however many places, they get points, right? And then they can fill or trade those points in for like whatever incentive we have, a sticker or a goodie bag of something. So something thematic and fun really to get people out is a really, really good way to get not only visitors and residents out to visit those businesses, but to have the businesses work together as well.
And to that end, if that's what, if I may have misunderstood the question entirely, so I'm glad that Kennedy brought that up. So my county is under the Alabama Mountain Lakes Association, and that's exactly what we have. We have wine trails and beer trails and barbecue trails and Alleluia trails. We have all those sort of things, and they kind of work on a passport type of situation. We have the brochures. So I completely agree that creating a fun passport type trail where people can tick off everything and then loop that into your social media, I think is the way to get more exposure to your businesses.
And if the question was kind of wondering like how to connect trails to these businesses potentially, I would say like if you have this idea or a goal, like you have this passport in mind, this big cool dream, maybe think about going for some grants and use that idea as like your storytelling. Like this is what you want to do, and all the this idea to have all these businesses working together. I think that's really compelling, and that's a way to potentially develop trails too to get those businesses connected.
Wonderful. The next one is directed towards Kennedy, but others may have thoughts they want to offer about their own community. But so Kennedy, Eau Claire is not a new city. How did you create so many trails, especially those into the downtown? Lane diets using former rail corridors or condemnation? Did you use any of those or any other strategies?
I saw that question and I think it's awesome. So I don't want to take credit for the trail development in Eau Claire. Somebody did it before me, a group of people, like, just genius people, who must have had the vision to see, like, we have two major river systems that come right through our downtown, and the confluence is in our downtown. So then we've got, like, we're also known as the city of bridges, and so it's kind of like natural with using our topography and sort of how the city is already situated to put trails where they are. Of course, you can build businesses on rivers, the shore and all sorts of stuff, but somebody had the forethought to think, no, we're going to put trails here. That is a wonderful, wonderful question. And it was a big reason why I ended up moving to Eau Claire in the first place. And now I just find, like, just so happen to be also developing more trails because I'm just so passionate about it. It's just kind of how I landed. But that is such a good question. Yeah, I mean, it's been several people over a long period of time with some sort of a good vision that obviously has contributed to the amazing, amazing trail system we have today. So I wish I had a lot more specific information to share, but.
Sure. I don't know, Emily or Stephanie, if there's anything insights from your communities that you want to offer in regards to how you create the trail system in your area, or if we can move on to the next question. Sounds great. The next question is about reporting. And it's a couple of questions all packed into one. So I'll mention them all and then allow you all to tackle them as you see fit. How do you track trail use? And how do you track dollars spent by trail users? And then the next question is, any advice for small organizations looking to track this type of data and use it strategically?
Somebody else can go, please. I do have a lot to say. This is a good question, good series of questions.
So, if it's possible, if you can join with other groups to go into Placer, for us, Alabama Mountain Lakes has some sort of agreement with Placer and Zartico so that we can access some of the data. I love the idea of trail cams that will literally, I mean, for I don't even know how much a trail cam is now, like $100, $150, something like that, and actually do a physical count. And then you might have to have somebody on the trail, like ticking off or asking questions. And also, if you have, I love QR codes, and I think that those are becoming the thing. So if you have a sign with a QR code, hey, could you tell us about your visit? If you're from out of town, can you tell us about your visit? And then you can ask those questions in a way that is less expensive than Placer.
Yeah, we also, I mean, there's so many trails across Utah. So I think I mentioned to someone that we have a few trail counters that we'll loan out to different organizations that they can use for a short time. We also have just partnered with our Office of Tourism to access some Zartico data, which has been really insightful lately. We also work very closely with our transportation department and their trails division to try and get data on how users are, interacting. But it's always tricky. Having data is amazing. And it's also never perfect. Like, that's just something you have to come to terms with. It. You're never going to exactly know if it's a biker or a walker or a horse or something that crosses a trail counter. But the more data you're able to have, we've used Strava data in the past. There's just so many avenues, just depending on kind of what your resources are. We work across, that small little trail counter all the way up to that Zartico data as well.
Thank you. Kennedy, I know you said you had a lot of thoughts. I understand we only have about a minute. So if you can Offer your thoughts in that minute, and then unfortunately, this will have to be the last question, just given the timing.
Yes, no problem. Trail counters are always a good way to just count however many people are using your trails. There's all sorts of new technology out there for, like Stephanie mentioned, trail cams as well. Placer and Zartico, oh my gosh, I cannot like overstate how much that kind of data, that spatial data is so powerful. I know it's really expensive, so if you can connect with your city or another organization where you split the costs, that might be a good way to tap into that. For my DIY economic impact survey and dwindling down the daily spending, that was all through surveys, right? So in specific questions, I asked about daily spending and if it's on lodging versus food versus blah, 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 blah. And you can find the step-by-step guide in that DIY economic impact guide that I shared out. So if you were really interested in specifically that equation, that should get you there too.
Wonderful. I think that's right on time. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. I have to make one last reminder, which is that for those seeking AICP certification maintenance credits, please make sure to log your credits on planning.org with the numbers shown on the screen and in the chat. With that, I want to thank our speakers, Emily, Kennedy, and Stephanie. You were fantastic. Thank you so much. And we want to thank all of you for joining us today. And we hope to see you at future RTC sessions.